story. So the first two.
Did you forget to press record?
I just saw that.
We have
I
not
just
been
saw that.
recording this whole fucking time. We're gonna keep going where we're at, and I'm gonna do an intro a little bit later.
We will make sure it's a thing. Don't worry.
We will make sure it's a thing. But
we're gonna have to have you back
of
now.
a bitch. We're gonna start this story that you just started again. And then we're gonna, oh my dear sweet
so I do gotta say that is the best pitch for Metal Ninja Studios I have ever done.
It really was. It was. I was sold, and I'm cynical about everything. I was sold. Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Oh man. So of course, yeah. It's like, I think subconsciously you knew it wasn't being recorded, so you just did the best pitch you ever did. It was all the pressure.
It was funny. I just look up and I see Dave's face, and I'm like,
yeah, same.
Something
happened. Am I saying
happened.
something wrong? Am I saying
I was like, something happened, and then I just saw recording started.
And I was like, oh, fuck me. Oh my god. For those of you just tuning in, which is everybody, Joel is the bestest guest we have ever had. It is locked in. At this point, we fucking owe it to him. So he is the bestest guest we've ever had.
Yes.
The end. For the rest of history. Sorry, the people who are on the docket for the rest of this week and into next week. You lose. Joel's the bestest.
And
for,
as penance,
I'm gonna,
as
at least
penance to Joel, for this, we are going to have him back for a mini episode to talk about whatever the hell he wants to talk
about. Oh, Christ.
You know what? I will take you up on that, and I will take you up on that when I am off program and can have a drink with you guys.
Deal.
Ooh, yeah,
Deal.
yeah. That'll be perfect. Boom. All right.
Okay. So what were we talking about?
So we were talking about. So the question that we were talking about DUSK County Chronicles.
Yes.
Joel started up Metal. So a quick recap of the past 30 minutes that were not recorded.
Don't try to regret.
I will. Here we go. Joel started Metal Ninja Studios while he started to create his indie comics. He started by submitting to an anthology. They rejected him, so then he put his own little mini anthology comic together. He called his local comic shop. He was able to go there, sold 50 copies in 2 days. 50 copies was all he printed. That ended. So then he went back and started to create his own comics, but then he also wanted to learn how to letter. So he started to learn how to letter. Then other people were like, who lettered your comics? And he's like, oh, that was me. They're like, can you letter my comics? So he's like, yes. So he started lettering their comics. Then he got a really big client where he started to letter all their comics, but then all his other clients had to be ignored. So then he had to hire more people to cover those because he didn't want to just like say, fuck you, go away. I'm too busy. So to cover all of them, he brought on the whole team. And then he created this whole company with 3 major points of ethos, which go ahead, Joel, let's repeat the ethos.
I gotta say, you did it better than me. So the 3 values that Metal Ninja Studios was founded on were quality before quantity, and all of that ties back to the fact that this industry is very heavily influenced by page rates. And that's one thing that I'm personally trying to break, but the reliance on page rates makes it to where you got to pump out as many pages as possible to feed your family, which is why I'm trying to break that foundation. Right. But with Metal Ninja Studios, the way we start that is we focus on the quality first. That way, even the newest creator who has no idea what they're dealing with is going to get a professional quality book by coming to Metal Ninja Studios. And then the second value, branching off of that same idea, is 1% better daily. And the main reason why we do that is because people get so used to that grind of churning out pages as fast as possible, they get stuck in their processes, stuck in the routines, and they stop growing. So in order to combat that, the entire Metal Ninja Studios team does continued education daily, and they do that so that we never get stuck in those routines, and we're constantly learning new techniques and new processes to improve our systems and improve our offerings for the customers. And then The third is service over sales. With everything that we offer, it would be very easy for me to say, well, you want to do this, but really, and try and upsell you. We don't do that. Metal Ninja Studios exists to make your dreams come true. And the only way that we can do that is by serving our customers, by serving based off of what their needs are. Someone can come to us just with, I need a book lettered. Great. I'm not going to say, oh, you need a book letter. Do you also need an editor and to find an entirely new artist to redraw the thing? No. Whatever the needs of the customers are, that is what we do because we are there to serve. Yeah. So to summarize, those are the three core values of Metal Ninja
Those
Studios.
are the three. And two other major points that
Very
we
nice.
covered. They are not really an incubator. They
Right.
are a full service. They will hold your hand to make your dream come true. They also don't do in-house art. They will help you find an artist through their connections, through their knowledge of the artists that are out there and how to work with an artist, and they will take you through that whole process. But they will find the artist that works best with your vision of your book. They don't just have a small roster of artists where it's like one of these, half dozen, whatever it is, or, you know, hopefully that works with your book, because that's not what works with most books. You want to find the style that works best for you. And that, I think, is an amazing selling point as well. So I wanted to make sure that was said. And that brought us to DUSK County Chronicles. And Joel, so Census Hall started because he was trying to make his own comics. And he has DUSK County Chronicles #3, the final issue of the Nightfall storyline, which is happening on Kickstarter. By the time this episode drops, it should be happening on Kickstarter as we speak. So I was asking him, because part of the reason he built out Metal Ninja Studios to what it is today is so he could find the time to work on his own stuff as well, and not just be, and of course he couldn't even keep up with the clients that he had at one point. So he needed a team, but now he's back with the third and final issue of DUSK County Chronicles Nightfall. So I was asking him, how did he segue back into that? Where is he with all of that? Like, has he been doing an issue a year more often? Because that's something I'm very curious about.
Perfect. So
and you can talk about the program that you're on too.
I will. It won't be a random aside this time. It'll actually fit within the narrative of the story. I am a storyteller after all.
Yes.
So the DUSK County Chronicles started back in 2018, 2019 as my gateway into comics. And it started as an anthology series where I made little short stories, bundled them together for a mini anthology. Then that was the first issue. Second issue, same thing. But at the end of the second issue, I teased this overarching story. And now I basically pitch the DUSK County Chronicles as the Avengers of Horror, where it starts as a series of interconnected short stories that grow into an expanded mini-series, which is Nightfall,
right.
The third issue of which is now on Kickstarter. And I started with the first two. I released them within a year of each other, I think. Nightfall released via Kickstarter, and then immediately after Nightfall, COVID hit. So when COVID hit, around this time, I was very active in my training. The ninja part from Metal Ninja Studios is tied to the fact that I'm an avid obstacle course racer. The medals back there and the flag are for obstacle course racing, including this tattoo. It's my passion aside from comics. It's what I do in my free time. I train. Back then, before COVID, actually before Metal Ninja Studios, I was training very heavily and trying to hit this particular goal. I hit the goal in 2018, right about the time Metal Ninja Studios was starting. And when I hit the goal, I said, okay, I'm going to take a break. Couple days, turned into a couple weeks, turned into a couple months. Metal Ninja Studios was taken off, so that was fantastic. But that ended up becoming a 4-year break from training. Yeah. And during COVID, I had just released the DUSK County Chronicles, but I couldn't take it to shows to sell it. I was in the process of trying to make
And just to clarify, the Nightfall #1.
Nightfall, yes.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
Nightfall #1. I had just released it via Kickstarter, and we had all of this momentum building up. COVID hit, all of it stopped. I couldn't take the book to shows. I was trying to decide if I was going to go to Kickstarter, because then I'd be showing up at a show with 2 new books instead of 1 new book and trying to convince the people. It was a lot. And of course, there was a lot going on with COVID just in general. So I ended up getting to my heaviest during COVID. I had my worst physical conditioning. I'm 5'5", and I was over 210 pounds. And I was in a very low place mentally, as a lot of people were. And it just put pressure on a lot of things, tension on a lot of things. So just over a year ago, I found out about this program, Live Hard, through a group that I'm in. And it starts with a program called 75 Hard, where you do 75 days consecutive of 2-a-day workouts of 45 minutes a day. You read 10 pages of a self-development book. You drink a gallon of water a day. You pick a nutrition plan and you stick to it. And you can't drink alcohol, which is why I can't drink with you guys tonight.
Right.
So I started that program.
We're drinking all on his behalf. We're double in. We're 1.5 times intaking, me and Dallas both, on Joel's behalf, to make up for the difference.
Well, it should be 3 times, considering we're missing 30 minutes of video, but I kid. But
this is what we do.
I started 75 Hard and ended up completing the program and got fantastic results from it, and decided to continue the year-long version of it, which is called Live Hard, which is different elements of that same initial program spread out into 3 30-day increments throughout the year, culminating in what's called phase 3, which ends on the 1-year anniversary of the day you started 75 Hard. So basically, it's a 1-year mental toughness journey. And through that journey, I went from my absolute heaviest, just downright broken and beaten man, essentially. Not to say my wife beats me, because she doesn't, but beaten down by life. Like I was in poor mental and physical health, went through this program, got into the best shape of my life. I got back into obstacle course racing. I did a challenge called the 12-hour walk, where I went out walking for 12 hours straight. And then I did 10,000 push-ups in a month in January. I did a series of challenges, culminating with the end of Live Hard this past July, just about a month ago. And at the end of Live Hard, I brought Metal Ninja Studios involved, and I didn't tell anyone I was doing this. I pretty much went into my own little cave, and as we talked about previously, you guys would know this, but as we talked about previously, I'm horrible with social media. Yeah. I hire a guy to do social media because I'm horrible at it.
That'd be me too. Buddy.
Yes, and that was also not captured in the beginning. So shout out to Blake's Buzz.
Yep.
For the social media and for making this episode happen. I think Joel is regretting it now, but thank you, Blake, for making this happen. Regardless, we're still having a good time.
This is a blast, because now I get to practice my pitch twice. Like, I love this. So, anyway, I'm horrible with social media, so it wasn't very hard for me to just kind of disappear for a year and not really talk about what I was doing. But at the end of Live Hard, I decided to go public with it. And with Blake's help, we went public, and I ran a challenge called 4x4x48. And I did the first annual Metal Ninja Studios charity challenge. And the 4x4x48 is I ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And before and after every run, I did a live stream. That's 48 miles in 48 hours. Yeah, wow. It was brutal.
That's commitment, my friend.
I did a live stream before and after every single run, and we did it to raise money for charity. My wife has a neurological condition called idiopathic intracranial hypertension. And basically, without getting too far into the weeds, it is a buildup of cerebral spinal fluid on the brain that can be managed via medication, but it means that she's on medication for the rest of her life. It's an extremely rare condition. And because it's so rare, the chances of them finding a cure are very slim because the sample size for testing is so small. So we've raised money for the Intracranial Hypertension Research Foundation, which is the leading research foundation trying to find a cure. We did a limited edition merchandise run, including the shirt that I'm wearing right now. That was only available for the month leading up to the challenge, through the challenge, and the week after. And we ended up raising about $1,000 for charity, and we donated that.
Very nice.
And that ended up becoming the first annual. So now we're in the process of planning next year's charity event.
Okay.
But all of that comes back to the fact that through all of this hard stuff that I put myself through in the past year, whether it's the physical challenges, the mental challenges, whatever, it really cleared my mindset and gave me greater focus to work on Metal Ninja Studios, work on the expansion. Everything from the expansion came from what I was learning about myself through that program. And then when it came time to come back to DUSK County Chronicles, I was revitalized because for the longest time, I didn't want to write. I didn't want to work on it. Like, I made a joke that it's kind of funny that the professional letterer doesn't have time to letter his own book. So that was before the expansion, and it was kind of fun, kind of funny, but at the same time, it was kind of depressing because I couldn't work on my own stuff. And when I finally got a chance to, I didn't want to. And I just couldn't get the drive to. I knew that I needed to because I needed to finish the story for all of our backers, for all of our followers, for the people that literally helped me build a career in this. I needed to get it done, but I didn't have the drive. So over the past year, I put myself through all of this hard stuff, essentially putting myself into difficult situations so that I would know how to overcome difficult situations. And because of that, I revitalized my love for writing, for DUSK County Chronicles, for everything that I have been doing and building and just the industry overall. And it revitalized me to the point where I went from never wanting to do another Kickstarter to planning a publishing division for Metal Ninja Studios centered around Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So with all of that, after COVID, I did a Metal Ninja Studio or DUSK County Chronicles Nightfall #2 just over a year ago. And then the past year has been planning and building, finishing the book. And just to show the difference in mindset from where I was back when Nightfall 2 came out to now, Nightfall #2 got delayed because the book wasn't lettered yet. After we funded, we went to Kickstarter, we got it funded, and there were delays in the process that were 100% on me because of everything that I talked about now. But just to show how different things are, Nightfall #3 is done. Like, everything is lettered, everything is produced. I'm pretty sure Blake sent you guys a copy so that you could read it.
We can attest to that.
Yeah,
We've read
it's
it.
definitely done, guys.
It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're just finishing the book was very for lack of a better term, nostalgic for me because there was one scene in Nightfall #3 where I had been building up to this scene since DUSK County Chronicles #1. And it's a callback to almost side-by-side exact image callback to one of my favorite scenes from the very first issue. And I had been building up to that for 5 years, pretty close to 5 years. So I lettered it, and then I texted Blake after I lettered it, and he was like, "What's going on? You're normally asleep by now." And I just had to tell him, I was like, it's really surreal that I just finished this because I've been building to this for so long.
Yeah.
And now it feels like I'm completing a stage. And now we're ready to take it to the next stage, take
Right.
Metal Ninja Studios to the next stage. So we're finishing a chapter and preparing for
You're
whatever the
finishing, you're
future
wrapping
brings.
up the beginnings of the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And just as I was lettering this issue, I was thinking about how far I've come personally, how far Metal Ninja Studios has come, and how far we have to go and what stories are next, because I finally get to revitalize a story that I've had shelved. I have another comic that's not the Dust County Chronicles that the first issue is drawn and lettered and ready to go. It's been ready for years. I've just been sitting on it because I didn't want to release another story while the Dust County Chronicles was unfinished. So now I finally get to revisit that world. And just in terms of my own personal creation, sky's the limit again, and it's exciting, but at the same time, it's not sky's the limit with the exception of Metal Ninja Studios. It's sky's the limit because of Metal Ninja Studios, and while I'm continuing to grow, the company continues to grow, and by growing the company, other creators get to grow. My team gets to grow. Everyone gets to grow. We get to rise all tides, help all ships rise, and help other creators accomplish what took me 5 years to do.
Right.
The growth is exponential now rather than just linear
It gets to
with
do
one
more,
singular idea.
and you get to delegate personally.
Right.
So it's actually like, as you grow from here, it's not necessarily, at least not so directly, just more work for you. It's like it gets to grow. You get to do more for other creators while having more and more time for your own creations. So best of all fucking worlds. That's awesome.
It's the foundation of Metal Ninja Studios, essentially.
Yeah, basically everything from everything that we've done over the past going on 5 years is built off of the back of the Dust County Chronicles. So we're finishing a chapter, and it's an emotional time, to be honest, and I'm really excited for what comes next.
It's curious because I do think, Dave and I, in our former career and business venture, we sort of did a similar thing where it was sort of mentoring talent and finding new talent.
It was directly managing talent, so not creation of anything, but managing them. We were in LA.
One thing specifically you find with most creators who do these sort of long form projects is that sense of completion. When you have a story that you just you have passion with and you sort of build as you go along, it is so, I hate to say it, but rare that you get that sense of full circle completion. So when it does happen, you've got to celebrate. You've got to make sure you tell the world about it. So bravo.
It's surreal. It's always surreal when
built
it happens.
some great inertia.
It's kind of funny, the fact that you say that, because I've had that sense of completion before, just while this has been hanging over me, because over the past 4.5 years, I've been involved in over 50 Kickstarter campaigns in one way or another.
Right.
And now it's getting to the point where I'm involved in even more exponentially, because now the team is involved with stuff that I'm not directly involved with. I still review everything for quality assurance, but I'm not directly involved in doing the work. Yet Metal Ninja Studios is still involved. So that 50 Kickstarters is exponentially growing. And being involved in all of that, I have that sense of completion, while the one thing that started everything has been left incomplete. So now it's getting that sense of completion while building off of it. I mean, I have a tattoo of Steak, which is a comic that I lettered. I did the graphic design or the production design for the Scout release, and we got nominated for a Ringo Award. So this is one of my favorite logos that I created, and I fell in love with this vampire glyph that Francesca Fantini, the artist, created, to the point where I got it tattooed on me. And now it has even more of a connection, because David Byrne is our publisher for Metal Ninja Studios, and we have a long history of working together. So there's all of that tied into this. There's the nomination tied into this. There's the fact that was among the first trade paperbacks that I produced. I've done a few since then, and there was one or two before then, but just the level of completion, project completion that I've had has been beyond my wildest imaginations. If you had asked 2018 me how many comics I thought that I work on in the next 5 years, I wanted to be a writer, so I was like, however many I can write. And now it's exponentially higher than that. And calling back to the writer in me, I finally get to finish that thing that I started 5 years ago. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that the audience is as excited for it as I am, because unfortunately, being bad at social media, I've had a very hard time of telling the people, "Hey, after 5 years, we're back." So
well, and you don't
I'm in
know,
that boat
it's
with you,
hard.
my
It's
friend.
hard to take the pulse of how many people like. Do you remember this? Are you eagerly awaiting the conclusion of this? And you're like, I've been as gone as you, so I don't even know. But we're gonna find out.
Exactly. And I did some experimenting before with Nightfall #2. I actually hired a friend of mine to help out, and this is one thing I'm grateful for. And one of the things that makes Metal Ninja Studios so valuable, in my opinion, is I made plenty of mistakes over the past 5 years. So with the mistakes that I've made and that my team made, we essentially get to make sure that the creators that we work with don't make those same mistakes. Like one of those mistakes is with the DUSK County Chronicles Nightfall #2. I hired a friend of mine, Travis Gibb, fantastic friend. He came on to help me promote it because I'm like, dude, I suck at social media. I've been away for years. People probably don't remember this book. I need help. So he hopped in and he told me after the fact that pretty much everyone was like, why are you promoting this? You have nothing to do with it. So that it makes sense. I wasn't in the clearest mindset back then, but it makes sense. But now with the expansion, I'm still not the one doing the active promotion, but now Blake is. And now if anyone asks Blake, I'm the marketing manager for the company that's publishing it. It makes sense. He's directly involved with it. And that is something that we can leverage because now anyone who works with Metal Ninja Studios, Blake can promote their books, and it makes sense. It's not just my books, and that's the power of leverage. And that's what we're building with Metal Ninja Studios, is that leverage that we can then provide to other creators who don't really know what's going on.
And just to do a bit of a call back here, Joel, you mentioned earlier that I don't think this was actually recorded.
How far earlier?
You mentioned.
Are you going to mention the 30-part thing that he was talking about?
No, that you mentioned that any creator could go out and find a letterer or a colorist or an artist, and might come out paying a hell of a lot less or a lot less than they would, employing your services. But that sort of trial by fire, that experience of learning the pitfalls and, the bends in the road, essentially that is what a creator would end up sort of having to learn the hard way. They would end up paying for that in the long run. And so what you guys provide is that kind of experience, that sort of
I think that's pretty much a perfect segue into a summarized version of the pitch that no one got to hear. So
I'll always get us back on track, my friend.
So Metal Ninja Studios started out as honestly nothing more than a tax vehicle. When I first started the DUSK County Chronicles, which we've been talking about, I started the company in 2019 as a way for me to make comics and leverage my financial education as an accountant to do what I thought was the smartest way to start a business. And instead of taxing everything myself, I created a company to be the vehicle for the stuff I was publishing. Over time, I developed skills of lettering and graphic design through self-guided education. And I learned the value of continuing education while doing that, because I was constantly learning new things, constantly experimenting with things, and trying to grow, trying to improve. And over time, people saw what I was doing for lettering, and they asked me to letter their own books. They said, "Hey, who letters your books?" And I said, "Me." And they said, "Oh, cool. Can you letter mine?" Okay. So that's how I started getting into freelancing. And one thing led to another. I kept meeting new people in the industry, and my connections kept growing. And I ended up working for Scout as a production designer. And through my time there, I worked my way up until I was the head of design for Scout Comics. And I I was there at the same time that Charlie Byrne or Charlie Stickney and David Byrne were. They work together, so it's Charlie Byrne or David Stickney. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're both really good friends of mine, and I like to joke. But I was there around the same time as them, and it got to the point where I was having to focus on Scout work more than my freelance work. But I was making more money from the freelance work, and I had a lot of clients depending on me. So I decided I needed to step away from Scout and focus on the freelance stuff, which I did. And among those freelance clients was Merck Publishing. About 2.5 years ago, they started with Miss Meow #1 on Kickstarter. And they were among those freelance clients. Well, over time, as they grew, their demand for me grew, because I have lettered every book that they've done thus far, now indirectly through the studio, but basically what started as one lettering book became a demand for full service production, lettering, writing, graphic design, Kickstarter design, the whole gamut. And they've done 23 Kickstarters in the past 2.5 years through a series of umbrella publishers. So the demand was there again, and I was finding myself in a similar situation where Merck needed my attention. They needed attention of the studio, but at the same time, I had all of these other clients. And to quote Dave earlier, I didn't want to just say, "Fuck you guys, go away."
He said
my
it much
client,
better than I did the first time around.
Yeah, but Dave is much more fun, so I'm gonna steal his line. I like the fun way. So instead of saying that, I decided, okay, now it's time to start looking at how I can help the most people. And that led to the expansion, bringing other designers in, bringing other letterers in, bringing in Blake as the marketing manager, bringing in the team and expanding the team to increase the leverage and increase what I'm able to provide. Because as one person, I can only provide as much as these two hands can do. But by building a team, the amount of service that we can provide can grow exponentially. So that's what we did. We started expanding. We started building out the team, started working very heavily with Merck, and now we do a lot of work for Comics Elite as well as their umbrella publishers. We do a lot of work for all of our freelance clients. Not only did I not lose freelance clients or tell freelance clients to go away, I was able to expand and say we're bringing on more clients. On top of that, we were able to expand our offerings into what I believe is something truly unique, and hopefully something that can improve the industry overall. And that is our full service production offerings. And I didn't touch on this before, but I will on the conclusion of this, and that's the offerings that we have for publishers. Okay. Because we, on the production side, we actually have a two-tiered approach where we work with the independent creator, which is the vast majority of what we're talking about now, but we also have a separate offering for publishers. So with the individual creator approach, we take a creator from the very beginning and can lead them through the entire process, guide them through the process. And what started as a vehicle for me to create my own project became a vehicle for me to help other people achieve their dreams. And that is the most powerful aspect of Metal Ninja Studios for me. And that's what drives me now. Whether it's helping my team achieve their dreams of working on bigger and bigger books, or helping a new creator achieve their dream of creating their first comic book. That's what Metal Ninja Studios now exists for. And we exist following those values that I mentioned before: quality over quantity, 1% better daily, and service over sales. And with that, we've developed systems and developed processes to where someone can come to us with an idea and they can say, this is what I want to do. And we will handle the writing, we will handle the editing, we will handle the lettering, we will handle the production, we will handle everything that it takes to get you a finalized book. And to Dave's point, and to Dallas's point as well, we don't do the artwork. That's the one thing that we don't handle in-house, and the main reason for that is because artwork is very subjective based on the needs of the story. One letterer can take their style and manipulate it to where it fits any artwork style. But one artist works on that one style, and that's how they make their name. Right. So if we were to represent artists, we would have a small hand-picked group of artists to where this is your selection. And that doesn't help anybody, because that tries to take your creative dream, and we try and sell our artists at that point.
I agree. I will say the few times I've seen other quote-unquote studios that are like comic book creation studios, they will usually select artists that are so almost nondescript in style, so it can it could match anything, but doesn't really. It's almost to the point where it's like it's so it's almost like something that a major company would hire for like a one-page comic ad or something, where it's like it doesn't look like anything, so it won't. It's so vanilla that it's just You
notice how all of the mainstream big two books all look the same. That's because they hire in-house artists. They hire artists that can match the style, and that's it.
Of that year or that era.
Correct. Correct. So that's one thing that I didn't want to do, because it would lead directly against service over sales. Because at that point, I would have to sell the artist instead of serving your book. So instead, what we do is we offer art facilitation, where we use our connections, our know-how, and our experience in the industry to gather artists, to vet artists, to present artists to you based off of your price range and based off of your story, what we think would fit the story that we've been working on and working and building with you. You then select the artist, and then we become the facilitators, so that instead of dealing with the artist, dealing with the letterer, dealing with the colorist, dealing with the producer, dealing with the printer, dealing with all of these things that take you away from creating or writing or whatever part of the process you personally want to handle, you being the potential client or customer that we're working with, we manage all of that, so that instead of being a writer project manager, you get to be a writer. You get to do the part that you enjoy while we handle the rest, and we leverage our experience. And to Dallas's point, quite honestly, you can go out and you can find a letterer for cheaper than what we offer. You can find an artist for cheaper than what we offer. You can find a writer. You can find an editor. Pretty much on the production side, everything that we do, you can find for cheaper. We don't compete on price, and that is very important to me, because when you compete on price, it becomes a race to the bottom, and that's what got the industry to this point in the beginning.
Well, and I would also say, the thing that kills me when I hear the stories of, I'm on a number of indie comic creator Discord channels and whatnot, where I get to hear the stories as they're happening, as they're trying to put their comics together. And they can find an artist for dirt cheap, and those are the artists that disappear on them after getting thumbnails, and they've paid them all up front. Yeah. And so they're just out that cheap money. It's less money if it had worked, but so often, I'm going to say it's more than 50-50, but at least 50-50. That is the risk of you spending that money and not even getting what you paid for.
And that's something most creators who are new to market, who are new to the idea of becoming a content creator, just won't know until they know it.
Yeah.
Until they're in the midst of trying to recoup that $1,500 that that artist has disappeared on. So,
and we've gone through it. Like everyone on my team has gone through these things, and basically we don't compete on price because personally I believe that the value that we provide makes us unique in the industry to where we are a premium service provider. You can find what we do elsewhere. Some of what we do. The bulk of our general offering, if you're trying to find a letterer, yes, you can find a letterer out there. Right. But it's the stuff that we offer outside of that that you can't find elsewhere. And that's what makes us a premium provider, because we teach you throughout the entire process. Going back to the incubator question that Dallas asked in the unforeseen footage. Dallas asked if Metal Ninja Studios was basically an incubator, and I said no. With an incubator, you put something in, you wait, you get something out. We don't do that because basically you would give us your idea, you would wait, and then we'd return a finished book. But you learn nothing. You do not grow. You give us money, you get a product. Right. Essentially, that's where things are in the industry right now. When you hire an artist, you hire them, they draw, you get it. You hire a letterer, they letter, you get it. Basically, that's the model of the industry right now, is incubator processing. So instead, what we do is we help you through the process. We explain what we're doing. If we give editorial feedback, we explain why this feedback is important. We help you understand speaking in different voices as a writer. We help you understand what particular elements of art don't work, like the 180 rule. Most writers don't know what that is. We help you understand why lettering is so important. Thank God. And the fact that we do more than lettering means that we're not telling you something just to make ourselves seem more important.
That's true.
Because if all that we did was lettering, if we say lettering's important, guys, it's very easy for it to come across
coming from the letterers. Of course you think that, right?
Correct. But lettering is just one part of what we offer. We offer education across the spectrum, soon to be free education, because going back to Blake's Buzz, we sponsor Blake's podcast, Blake's Buzz, and Blake being our project or our marketing manager. And we sponsor his podcast to not only help his podcast grow, but also to give us a platform to help our clients as well as the general public. And one of the ways that we're going to be doing that is through free education for all. We are going to take different elements of the creative process, teach people how to do it, and give it away. And we're giving a platform for our creators, our clientele, and our community to talk about their projects, to talk about what they're working on. One thing that we're going to be starting on the podcast next month is a creator roundtable, where we're going to open up an episode of Blake's Buzz for our creators to come and talk about their products or talk about their projects. At the same time, we're going to have a Metal Ninja Studios team roundtable, where we're going to have the team come on and talk about what we're working on. That's not stuff that you can get from a letterer, from an artist. And that level of marketing and that level of education, that level of care and for lack of a better term, hand-holding throughout the process of actually a better term, guidance. We aren't taking your project and making it what we want it to be. We are creating your project with from your base idea. We will develop your project. We will create it.
I think you used a really good term, project management, which is, goes right to the heart of it, again, in the unforeseen part of the footage. But you used that term where I was like, ooh, that cemented it in my head, everything that you were talking about, where it's like, the client is still creatively in charge, but you are managing the fucking project while they're still seeing and being a part of every single step of And I think the process is a great term as well, because that's what you're teaching them, is not just give us an idea and here's any one particular part of that idea done. It's like, we're going to show you the process of creating this.
Now, keep in mind, people can still come to us for lettering. They can still come to us for the individual aspects of the process. We offer full service, and that is our main offering to the individual creator.
But at the same, take it all or nothing.
Correct. But at the same time, if someone comes to us for lettering, we may still be more expensive than your traditional letterer. And the main reason for that is because of everything else that we provide. If you're coming to us for lettering, you still get the marketing, you still get the education, you still get this and this and this and this and this. And the list of what we're building and what we offer is continuously growing. Why is it continuously growing? Because now I have time to focus on what we offer, who we are as a company. By having the team building this company along with me and helping me through this process, it's giving me more time to focus on how we can better help, how we can provide, and quite frankly, how we can justify calling ourselves a premium service provider, because that's what we are. That's what we're building into. And the only way that we can do that, and the only way that we can justify being a premium provider, is by providing a service outside of what you can get by yourself. And
honestly, the education is going to help you in that, because it teaches people why that's so special. It teaches people why the process is as much as it, because it's one of those things that a lot of people, especially if they're a first-time creator, they're stumbling through it one step at a time. And it's one of those things, if I knew how fucking difficult this was, I wouldn't have done it. But, they're just stumped, like, from one, okay, I just need to finish to write it. Oh my God, writing it was so fucking hard. Now I need to find an artist. Finding the artist. Now, what do I ask from the artist? What's the first thing they send me? What's that? Now I need.
And what is a letterer again?
No, it's going to be black and white. Wait, what the fuck is toning? It's like every single step of the way they have to figure out that there's more to it than covers, than alternate covers.
And people don't realize. People don't realize that there's a step after lettering. Print production. Who's going to get your book ready for print?
Right.
Like, you can find a printer that will, give me TIFF files and I'll put it together myself. But when you do that, who's doing the design work to put your credits page together? Your IFC. What's an IFC? Interior front cover. IBC. What's in interior back cover? All of these different things that people don't know what they don't know. And the only way to learn that is if someone teaches them. And quite frankly, it was hard as hell for me to learn all of this stuff. I had to learn it through 5 years of trial and error. So how do I help the next generation? By making it easier for them to learn it. And they can learn everything for free. They can do it themselves, or they can come to us and we will make the process easier through our developed systems, through our developed processes. And there is a philosophy that I manage the team on. And that philosophy is train them so they can leave you, but treat them so they don't want to. And that is the same philosophy that I provide that I give to the general public. I want to train you so you can go elsewhere, but I want to treat you to where you don't want to. And following that, the entire Metal Ninja Studios team has access to Skillshare on my dime. So the entire Metal Ninja Studios team has access to education, and I do not tell them what they need to learn. They can follow whatever creative path they want. I do say if they want to do something out of the ordinary, they have to somewhat convince me, and I'm not going to be like, one of my guys, he's a complete smartass, and I love him for it. But he says, right when I was telling them about this, I say, okay, if it's outside of the ordinary, you got to at least justify it somehow. And he says, I want to learn makeup and nails. I said, all right, justify it. He says, color theory. I said, all right, you're in.
Ding, ding, ding.
And that's it. Like, I provide the education. You do with it what you will. And that's it. Like, I've bought a series of books for different members of the team because there's education outside of Skillshare that I felt would be beneficial for them. And that's it. I want to train the team in a way that I didn't get taught. And I want to train the general public in a way that I didn't get taught. And eventually, once we build up the library of training, once we build up the library of exposure for the clients via the podcast, via the blog, via these different elements that we're working on behind the scenes, then that value of what we provide on top of we letter a book will become more and more apparent over time.
Yeah. Become streamlined. I man, I tell you, you have, when Dave and I started our first venture, 15 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, 14-ish.
A lot of what we were doing was sort of adjacent to what you guys are doing right now, and a very similar kind of core concept, idea, and aim. So it is great to see you guys.
I don't want to interrupt you, Dallas. I'm just throwing up a reminder. I still have to talk about the publishers. Please continue.
That's right. All right. You get to the publishers, and then we're going to get to the wine. So go with the publishers.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Dallas, please continue. I did not want to interrupt you.
Oh,
I was going to say,
go on.
no main point there. Okay.
Yeah, there was a point, but it's gone. It'll come back.
Hit the publishers.
There's wine and tequila involved. It'll come back.
Well, when it comes back, interrupt me. That way we're even.
There we go.
So, another unique aspect of what we provide that, again, I haven't seen within the industry. I don't know everything about the industry, so it could be out there and I just don't know about it. But we offer end of process production deliverables for publishers as well. And one of the big unique aspects there is something that I've developed through my time at Scout and now through my time with Merck Publishing is publishers have in-house design departments, they have lettering, they have to manage all of this stuff. So what we offer to publishers is everything from the lettering stage forward. We do the lettering if that's what they want within their wheelhouse. We also allow them to outsource the production to an experienced team who already knows what they're doing. And going back to the project management side, we manage the production, we manage everything needed to get it ready for print, and we give you print ready files so that, and the design work, everything that goes into getting a book from the art stage to print ready and ready to go to the printer on the timeline of the direct market, because we're experienced in that. And we offer that to publishers via a monthly retainer option. So instead of paying book by book by book by book by book, they have the option to say, hey, here's your retainer. Here is all of the graphic design work that I need. Can you get it done? Yes, we can. And we offer that exclusively to publishers. And if there's someone trying to start a publishing company, what we do is a transition. Your needs with us may start with, I don't have enough work for monthly. Cool, we'll do ad hoc, just like what we offer every other creator. But as your publishing company grows, so too will your needs. And when your needs grow, the demand for everything else that we do will grow as well. And once that demand hits a certain point, we can transition over to the monthly retainer to where you know that without a doubt, you will always have an entire team behind you ready to handle everything from the art stage on when it comes to getting your books ready for print on time. And that is a big thing with this industry is publishers need to manage art or writing, art, lettering, production, print prep, get it to the printer. Right. Imagine if a publisher only needed to handle two things, writing and art. Everything else, they give it to an experienced team who knows exactly what needs to get done by when, manages everything, and then it comes back and it's ready within the timeline that they need it to go to print, to hit the direct market, and be on shelves on time.
That's a hell of an approach, my friend. That is working both angles and the full spectrum of the pipeline.
And that is something you offer as of now, like that.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
exactly what we do for Merc Publishing.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
God, amazing.
And
Wow.
we have proven experience because we do it for Merc Publishing.
Okay.
I have a pull quote from Merc Publishing talking about what we do. I haven't posted it yet, but we have it. And at the same time, I have my experience with Scout Comics. So I've done it before for Scout. I'm doing it currently for Merc. And the best part about what we do for Merc is right now, I don't do any of the work. So I did it for Scout. I learned how to do it. I trained my team how to do it. And now it's not only maintainable, but it's expandable.
Right.
I've already trained my team on how to do it now. I can train more team if I need to as the demand grows. And it's not reliable, or it's not dependent on me personally doing it, which means that as these publishers' needs grow, Metal Ninja Studios can grow to always meet the demands.
My friend. This is one of the best conversations I've had in a
round of
long time
applause.
about
That's
the
all I can
industry.
get to that.
Bravo.
I hope I have earned the title of bestest.
Yes.
You have. You have.
have.
You
definitely have.
We owe it to you, but you've earned it nonetheless. So it's like, I mean, like no one that's like a double stacking of bestest right there. It's like it's impervious. Like no one can touch that for quite some time.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
you are secure, and with everything you're offering, I'm like, what is some creator with a book? Whatever. Look at this.
Yeah. That's precisely it. We know exactly where to send them now. It's like, go check these guys out.
I mean, please do.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things with this industry. Honestly, I've been focusing a lot on marketing because, like we mentioned, I can't remember if it was in the unrecorded or the recorded, so I'm just going to say it. And if you're hearing it twice,
it's
great.
funnier if it's in the unrecorded because Dave is.
It is.
I did not know any of Joel's story before this episode. I've now heard it twice, and now I can do his pitch. I will be able to do his pitch anytime. It's kind of fantastic.
But with focusing on marketing, one of the main things that I've learned through my time in the industry, everything that I'm learning now for the marketing of Metal Ninja Studios is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But think about the fact that I'm learning these new elements of marketing 5 years into building this company. That means that everything that I've done for the past 5 years has been word of mouth. I haven't needed to learn marketing because I haven't needed to do it. And that's not to brag. That is to say the importance of word of mouth.
Right.
If what we do provides value, tell someone about it, because you never know who that someone could tell. And that word of mouth is how I've built a career in 5 years, how I've gone from not knowing graphic design or lettering to owning and operating a studio that will hopefully help hundreds, if not thousands, of creators fulfill their dreams, whether it's through the publishing route and helping the publishers bring books to market, or whether it's through the individual creator route and helping the individual creator fulfill their independent dreams. Either side, the only reason that this is possible is because of the fact that for the past 5 years, people saw the work that I was doing and they told someone about it. And that person told someone else, and that person told someone else. And whether it's you guys or whether it's your audience, the more people that talk about what we offer at Metal Ninja Studios, because admittedly, the largest hurdle that I'm coming across, and this is full disclosure, I am the type of person who will lay it all out on the line more than I'll try and sell something. And service over sales, same thing. It's the hardest hurdle for me to cross right now is the fact that we're building something that is new in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
I do not know. And again, I don't know everything. There could be someone else doing this. To my knowledge, there isn't. I don't know anyone that offers what we offer. And with that, people don't know. People don't know what they're buying. People don't know. quote them,
Yeah,
and
no,
they
I
say,
agree with that.
"Ah!" and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
only way that they're going to know that we're trustworthy, especially someone who knows nothing about this industry, they're going to go to shows like yours. They're going to go to trusted voices. And those trusted voices, if those voices say, by the way, there's this company that can help, there's this company that can take all of the questions
Right.
that you've been asking yourself and through their own experience help you through the process
Right.
as easy as if you've been doing it for 5 years yourself.
Right.
That the only way that they're going to trust us is by trusting you, and the only way that they're going to know
That's right.
is by you guys telling it, by your audience telling it, and by that word of mouth spreading.
Right. Absolutely. And knowing that, they can come to you for bits and bobs or the whole shebang, and that is all customizable and scalable between the two of you either way. It's funny because when me and Dallas first started this little wine and comics pairing show, we were very cagey about starting to bring guests on at first because we weren't ready. And part of what I knew, I'd watched other comic shows, and I was like, once we start, the floodgates are going to open.
Oh yeah,
because it is the word, and it is all word of mouth. Like, we have not reached out to anybody, and it's starting to stockpile. Like, the moment one guest comes on, they start like messaging me more. They're like, okay, now you should have these next 3. Let me CC you on this email. And I'm like, here we go. It's
but
like,
I'm the bestest, so I can come on.
You
whenever.
are the bestest. Yes.
You are the bestest.
The bestest.
There will be others, but none that we love as much as you.
That's right.
That is how it's going to work.
So there is one value that I have not mentioned yet.
Uh-oh.
And it's a direct tie-in from word of mouth, because word of mouth, people can talk about it, but how do they know what we offer? How do they know the conversation that we've had now? How can someone else get that experience? And I mentioned I want to give away as much education as I can for free. Putting my money where my mouth is, the only way to hire Metal Ninja Studios is by going to our website, metalninjastudios.com, shameless plug, and booking a consultation. Okay. What is a consultation? It is a 45-minute video call with me where you can ask me any question and get a direct answer. I will give you a 45-minute crash course on lettering if that is what you want to talk about. Basically, you get 45 minutes of my time to ask whatever questions you want. No obligation. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to sign up for anything. And it's free. And that's it. That is my initial investment in you, is you get to talk to me for 45 minutes, ask me anything. Good. We could talk about the weather for 45 minutes. We could talk about wine for 45 minutes, whatever you want.
Something comes of it, something doesn't. That's entirely up to the but that's a fantastic offer. I mean, it opens the door. It lets people get comfortable with you with, again, nothing down up front, no obligation.
It's the on-ramp. And it is accessible on-ramp.
And then whatever questions, I'm sure they're going to have more questions, like everything, like in the heat of the moment you like hang up the phone, whatever it is, you're like, oh, of course I had the most important fucking question I didn't ask. But now they have a connect. They have you guys are connected. Something can come of that if they wanted to. That is fantastic. That's really good.
All right. Yep. So, onto the wine.
Onto the wine. Well, actually, onto
the water.
Onto the water.
Water bar, Joel, you gotta say what kind of water pairs with your, no, we won't go there. But DUSK County Chronicles, let's talk about the comic real quickly, because before we get to the wine, so we can actually talk about why we paired what we paired with it.
Yeah, there is a comic.
There is a comic. And this was I feel like I've heard the title before. I have never read it before preparing for this show. And it might have been, I feel like it might have even been through Travis Gibb when you said that he was marketing the second issue. And I know I've been following him for quite some time. And I was like, maybe it popped up on my radar then, but there was something familiar about it, even though I had never read it. And I did get to read, we mentioned those 2 early issues where there will be a remastered edition of those issues in terms of lettering someday. But I'm really glad I got to read those early issues, I will say, because one of the things that DUSK County Chronicles. Joel already did his pitch for that. I think. Oh God, where in the video was that? Anyway, it is. But one of the things that I love about it, it is kind of a town where all the horror and genre icons sort of coexist. There's like one icon, well, sometimes more. There's like a couple wolf people, but like vampires, wolf people. You've got superheroes and villains. You've got some fairy tale mythical beings and characters and creatures all kind of coexisting in this one little town. It started as an anthology, 2 issues of sort of like 4 short stories in each issue that were all unrelated. They just all happened to take place in this one town, supposedly, but you were like, okay, sure. So almost kind of Twilight Zone-y, where it's like if Twilight Zone was all in a town, or more like Tales from the Dark Side. It's a little more horror oriented. So like all happening in the same town. And then the current 3-issue limited series, the one that this 3rd and final issue kind of wraps up, was the first sort of epic story. And all the short stories suddenly start weaving together and coming together. Was that your plan from the beginning?
I was going to give the pitch, but you just did a really good job. I don't think I need to.
Yeah, I think, yeah. That's
yes, it was. The fact that everything was cohesive and all within one geographic location, DUSK County, was my plan from the very beginning. After the first submission to the anthology, back then it wasn't the DUSK County Chronicles, it was A Fiend in Me, just the one short story. Now, immediately after I mentioned I decided I was going to expand into more short stories, and then I had Roman, the artist, go back in and insert little elements. Like the cover for issue number 1. It's a horrible cover in terms of selling the book, but I love this cover because it ties into the very essence of what DUSK County is. And this cover shows different hints from within this issue. Gotcha. And this map exists in the story and is revisited in Nightfall number 1.
Yes, it is. Yes. I did not make that connection while reading, because, especially I think when reading a PDF of these things, the cover isn't something as tangible that you go back and look, because you quickly scroll past it and then you never go back to it. So I didn't go back to it, but that's very cool.
Go back and look at it now because there are Easter eggs on the cover from the individual stories. And inside each of the stories, there are different elements tying it to DUSK County. Like in the first one, what if Toy Story was a slasher? That's the pitch for the first story that opens the series. It takes place mostly in a vehicle. And if you look in one of the opening panels, there is a map of DUSK County. And that's what ties that story to the rest. As a family is heading out of DUSK County, DUSK County comes with them. And then throughout, I knew that they were all going to be located in the same area. And then after I finished writing the last story for the second issue, I knew I had to do something different because I had done short stories for so long. I wanted to stretch different muscles. And at the same time, it started as a horror parody. So with that, there's a fairy tale or story that everyone knows that I put a horror twist to. Leads me to the pitch. It's easier if I just do the pitch. So have you ever wondered what it'd be like if Toy Story was a slasher? What if Peter Pan required a sacrifice to enter Neverland? Those stories and more all happen within the DUSK County Chronicles, which is a 2-issue horror anthology series that takes tales you know and love and throws a horror twist on them. What makes it unique is, aside from the fact that these are all self-contained stories, they all take place in the same geographic location, DUSK County. And that brings us to the DUSK County Chronicles Nightfall, where characters and elements from every story of DUSK County come together for one 3-issue miniseries. Think of it like the Avengers of Horror.
Yeah.
And that is basically what it developed into, because I spent so much time telling twists of other stories. I wanted to tell a story of my own. And I had already kind of laid the groundwork by putting everything together in one place. So I thought, what if I bring it all actually together? And that was the fun part of writing Nightfall, is I got to go back to all of these different stories and see what I could take from different elements of each story and bring them together. And also the challenge, how I was going to take stories that seemingly couldn't fit. Like there's one in issue number 2 of the DUSK County Chronicles. It's probably one of my favorite stories because it's a twist on Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
And what made that a challenge for me is I wrote the entire thing as a poem. All of the dialogue, all of the sound effects, all of the captions, it is all a cohesive poem.
Yes.
And with that, it's Alice in Wonderland. It's all whimsical and fantastical. Like, how is that going to fit in the grounded reality of DUSK County?
Right.
Your answer is in Nightfall number 1. The answer is there. And piecing those puzzles together was one of my favorite parts about writing Nightfall. And I mentioned it before, again, can't remember where, so I'm going to say it again. One of the biggest things about finishing Nightfall number 3 is I got to call back to my favorite scene from the DUSK County Chronicles number 1. And this scene was my favorite to the point where you see my convention banner right behind me. I just got this banner last year after using the same DUSK County Chronicles banner since 2019. And that banner had an accent image that was this image from DUSK County number 1. It was my favorite image. And we called back to it in this final issue in honestly what is probably the most heartbreaking scene I've ever written. And I loved it. And it broke my heart lettering it because it finally came to fruition. And just being able to pull all of these strings to make it seem like I knew what I was doing from the very beginning.
It does.
And honestly, that's one of my favorite quotes from Neil Gaiman, because he says your first draft is to get it out. Your second draft is to make it sound like you knew what was going on the entire time.
That's right.
Right.
Amen to that.
And Nightfall is essentially my second draft at DUSK County, to where I can take all of these different elements and make it seem like everything is connected. And my skills in doing that was really the true test. And quite honestly, the fact that it's out there now for reviewers is terrifying, because now it's going to find out if I did as good as I thought I did.
Personally, I think you did.
Yes.
We're gonna see what Dallas thinks about this, but you know, this, because when I was reading again, the thing that I loved about reading those early issues, and so for anyone watching the show, you know, whatever it takes on this Kickstarter to get those early issues, I say do it. Make sure you, like, when the trade paperback or whatever comes out, that'll probably be when the remastered ones, pages of those issues. I'm assuming you're probably waiting for something like that.
So I'm not going to say when, and I'm not going to say how, but I will say there is already a plan in motion for those remasters. Gotcha. And it's a big deal, not only for DUSK County, but for Metal Ninja Studios overall. And if you can piece the conversation together that we've had so far, there are very particular things that I've mentioned that lead up to kind of hinting at what's going on. But
in broad strokes, I think I know what you're the type of thing you're talking about. Yes. I will say that, you know, that's just incentive, that like, get it now so you can read the story, the full story from this latest Kickstarter. And then whenever that remastered version comes out with whatever the plan is, that'll just give you incentive to upgrade to that at a later time. I still say get those early, get the whole thing, whatever issues you have, get those early ones, because reading them all together as a piece is an experience. It's the best experience. Like seeing all these disparate, seemingly unconnected stories get woven together in a way that is, especially when you realize how many years passed for the creators between all these issues, it's just like, it's like the whole damn thing was written in the first place, and it just took you that long to get the art done or something. I mean, it was like, what? I was not expecting it. I was very much expecting the longer story to just be a longer story that maybe wove one or two of them. But I think outside of probably the Toy Story as slasher, which was that very first story that you wrote for the anthology way back when. That's the only one that you mentioned. The connection was that map of Dusk County, but the characters, to my knowledge, did not suddenly reappear in Nightfall, but everything else does. And
Yes,
so
they did.
it's
Pay attention to Nightfall 3.
yeah. Oh, it
All
does.
right.
Oh, son of a
Let's
bitch.
just
Okay.
So
I take it back.
Good. So I actually need to run in a minute, so I'm going to get through here. I'm going to speed through this.
Go ahead.
So to Dave's point, the idea that all of this sort of ends up just creating this fantastic little tapestry that, where things sort of, so like I said, the Easter eggs, sort of the elements just sort of come together in a way that I did not anticipate. I did not expect. I actually didn't expect to enjoy it, honestly, as much as I did. Because, it does start with a sort of pulpy kind of vibe to it. It's very sort of, there's the creature feature element. It's all very sort of on the nose. But I do think that is intentional, because I imagine when you started this world out, you did have that sort of singular kind of crosshair of an idea, like you said, the Toy Story thing. And that on its own is a pretty limited, but the way you sort of just barrel roll through the possibilities and pull everything together,
and just the narrative weaving of it all together.
It's
kind of
fantastic.
It's an impressive fucking feat.
It's kind of fantastic.
Thank you,
Dallas. Go ahead.
And so I'm going to the wine now, because I got to run.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
All right, so initially when I started, there was this sort of there's a cinematic sort of factor to it, right? It does. It feels like a great, sort of almost like a creature feature, some sort of like, midnight movie feel, which is always satisfying. And so the beginning, the entree into that was accessible to me. And so I initially had this idea that I wanted something that was kind of cinematic in a way, and I knew it was going to be a red. I knew I wanted something kind of bold, kind of tannic, mid acidity, and then I thought about Pinots, of course, and then I thought something outside of a Pinot, something a little more intense than a Pinot, maybe. And I got to the temps, right? So I went to the Oregon temps. And one thing about,
for anybody who doesn't know what
sorry, it's the Oregon temps. And one thing about some of the Oregon temps is their primary notes are very popcorn. It's very buttery and popcorn, and on the nose. And so I knew that was like, okay, I'm in the right area now, because this is the kind of piece that I do kind of enjoy sitting with and just sort of, ingesting the way I would a Friday night creature feature, to be honest. And so I went with a deep temp. It is the Halloran Tempranillo 2015, which is...
Is it already gone? Do you have the bottle to hold
Oh, it's
up,
gone. It's
it's
gone. That's why I'm drinking tequila.
I know. I noticed you're like looking at the computer, and I'm like, oh, he drank the whole damn thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm drinking tequila. It's gone. The bottle's gone. So yeah, it was one of those things that my sort of rationale into why I chose that is just that. It was very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
My eyes don't leave the screen, for lack of a better term. And I associate that experience with popcorn and the creature feature. So the 2015 Halloran Temp on Oregon Red, I recommend you guys go and try it. It's kind of fantastic. And also, check out Joel and what these guys are doing at Metal Ninja, because
100%,
it's fucking fantastic.
I'll say that again once I'm done. But yeah, Dallas, if you got a bolt,
I'm a horrible person.
We'll wrap up here.
All right, guys. Yeah. Joel,
I don't blame you, Dallas. It was a pleasure.
Oh, definitely. I hope to talk soon, bud.
Yes, definitely, without a doubt.
Definitely. Bye, guys.
Bye. All right. And then picking up where Dallas left off there, the wine that I chose was, I posted this on social media last night. I don't know if you saw this, Joel. because I know I'm mostly communicating with Blake when I'm on social media.
Don't
when it
worry,
comes to
I'll
that.
yell at Blake for not telling me.
Okay. But I posted sort of the runner up because I was sipping that. I was kind of going between two different wines. And like Dallas said, I knew it was going to be a red as well. I mean, I'm reading this thing and I'm like, yeah, this has got to be something like it's got to have a little bit of a bite. It's got to be something that's got a little bit of a punch. And at first I went to one of my favorite wine varietals out there was something called a Pinotage. And that's a South African wine. It is actually the national grape of South Africa. And it's only been around in the wine world. Being around for like 50 years is like a baby. That's no time at all. Like that's like, oh yeah, we just made, and it's a hybrid of two much more established varietal Pinot Noir, and then a grape called Cinsault, which in France they call Hermitage. And so Pinotage is what they wound up when they hybridized the two grapes, created Pinotage, and it's the national grape of South Africa, but even South Africa still calls it a work in progress. So, that kind of gives you a little bit of a hint. It's one of those things where if you buy a cheap Pinotage, it's pretty much going to be shit. They just haven't figured it out that well. That's usually you're like, nope, that experiment failed. Let's sell that for cheap and put that on the shelves, and someone will buy it. And it's gonna be a little natty. It's gonna be hard to get through.
I hope I'm not the cheap one.
No. But I had the good thing is that when I say cheap, I really mean like under $15.
Yeah.
So once you hit like 15 to 25, there really aren't a lot of like expensive Pinotages for the same reason. No one's willing to pay that much for a Pinotage yet. So you usually don't find them above around like $50-ish, but then most of them are more in that like 15 to $30 range. So I had I think I paid $23.99 for this bottle when I bought it. So like in that 20 to 25, and that's usually a very safe zone. It was delicious. And it's like fruit compote, but then it's got like this the thing that a lot of people hate about Pinotage is it has this burnt rubber aftertaste to it. Which sounds terrible, but if it's made well, it's blended with all these other flavors to where it doesn't overpower. It's just this hint in the back. It's got this nice kind of raw meat blood tang on the back end, and then this little bit of burnt rubber, which for me personally makes it great for like horror and action, because it really gets you into those hints, those notes are really something that you're like, this works with what I'm consuming right here. This is fantastic. Whether you're reading, whether you're watching it like a Fast and the Furious movie, like it just goes so fucking well with that type of a thing. And it was the runner up. It was close. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I loved about DUSK County Chronicles, these 5 issues as they exist, I read it in one fucking sitting. It is smooth. It is really, really easy to read and to not put down, which I am a notoriously, I'm an antsy person. I don't sit for long periods of time. I hate it. I'm standing during this. Like that's one of the things. Like I'm very much, and I'm a big walker and a pacer, and I watch movies in bite-sized chunks. Like I almost never watch a movie in one sitting unless I'm in a theater. If I'm at home, it's going to be 30 to 45 minute chunks. However long the movie is, doesn't matter. I'll watch it in 2 evenings. I just don't. I'm notorious for it. It's how I like and prefer to consume things. But I read all 5 issues of DUSK County Chronicles. One go, Kitty was cuddling with me. I was sitting on the couch, and the time just like boom, it was gone. So I'm like, okay, I need something smoother and nicer and tastier than this. Even though I thought the Pinotage was delicious, it was too much of an edge, too much of something that was a little. It was close. I think it does for anyone out there. If you have a Pinotage, do it with DUSK County Chronicles. That pairs amazingly well. But I went, and there's another element why this pairs so well, but. So DUSK County Chronicles is also all those horror icons, all the things we know and love, but done in new ways and woven together in very unexpected ways that all just work phenomenally well. So I went out, I had this bottle. This is a Bordeaux blend. It is called, I do not speak French whatsoever, but it is called, so in an English accent, it is Chateau Moulin de Bernat. I'm sure that is Chateau Moulin de Bernat or something like that, but it's like Yeah, beats me.
Hey, that's better French than I will ever get.
But you know, Moulin de Bernat. If you guys, I'm going to throw an image up here on the screen when I do the post on this video. This thing beat out it in a decanter wine competition. It beat out almost 500 other more expensive Bordeaux's. This thing is $19 a bottle, so it's nice and affordable.
Oh.
It is, and it is two very classic, everyone knows grapes, Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. Everyone's heard of those two, generally speaking. It is 90% Merlot, 10% Cabernet Sauvignon, but it is and it is in Bordeaux, which is a very traditional area, but it is made with a brand new winery using very modern techniques. So this is sort of like all your classic flavors, all your and it is still being Cabernet and Merlot coming out of Bordeaux. It has a little bit of like kind of it's got all those wonderful red fruit flavors, but then also has this kind of like graphite or pencil lead kind of aftertaste, which is like you always find that in Bordeaux reds, generally speaking, but this one has it perfectly balanced to where it's just got that little bit of something like minerally, something stony, something just that little bit that challenges you, but at the same time, this is one of the smoothest. It is such a nice red. It, you know, it's a 95 pointer out of a 100-point scale on the wine scale in terms of like critics that have rated it. Like I said, it beat out almost 500 more expensive Bordeaux's in a wine competition that was judged blind. And the other thing that really thematically that this matches is that it is a woman-founded and run winery, which is still kind of a rare thing in the old world. And so I didn't realize this until I was done reading DUSK County Chronicles, but it's all female leads. I mean, they're all female characters, both the two primary women who are searching, but then who they're searching for. There goes my video. It'll come back. Hi, Kitty. There we go. It is, they're searching for women of their own, and they, without revealing where it all goes, like all four essentially become protagonists for this. I'm just gonna keep talking. All become protagonists. And so I realized, but when I was reading it, it never struck me as this predominantly female POV story, but it absolutely is. It's all through their POV. Everything that's happening and everything as the reader is getting it is through these four characters' POV, mostly the main two, but then it expands in the latter half. And I love that the ending is, I would actually even call it a happy ending. That might be a little weird. I know Joel was like, it's the most heartbreaking thing. And I'm like, no, it kind of is. It's not just happiness. No one gets what they want. Not exactly. That is one thing that I kind of like also about the story. It's a weirdly happy ending, even though no one gets exactly what they went into that story hoping for. Everyone has to accept something lesser. There's a little, so it's bittersweet in that way, but there is still an element of, I wanted a wine to pair with this that was just, it's easy drinking and it just makes you happy, because for the most part, that is what this is. I think that's where I end there.
I cannot follow that.
Well, you have to. So as always, the one last thing that we ask every guest is to bring on something that they love and they want to promote, and then of course, or spotlight, whether they're promoting it, who knows if it's on sale or if it's not. Man, what is going on? And I think this is one thing you guys did miss at the beginning, is that I'm in LA and we've got a hurricane coming. So my internet could be a wee bit on the spotty side, depending on what weather's going on here. But Joel, take it away. You're going to pair it with something. It's going to be in theory, because Joel cannot, or it might be non-alcoholic. We're going to find out, but he cannot drink right now because of the training that we talked about earlier. So Joel, take it away. What do you got?
So the one thing that I need clarification on, am I pairing my comic or someone else's comic?
Well, someone else's comic, but whatever you wound up actually doing, we'll run with that.
No, I'm prepared for both.
Perfect.
So I think that what I'm currently reading, I'm not finished with it. Kind of with the whole too busy to do anything, I kind of fell out of reading comics because I was too busy working on comics. But I start back to 1% Better daily. I read one comic a day. That's my new thing.
Right.
I work it in my routine.
I either I saw another interview with you or I saw that on social media, but I knew about that. Yes.
Yep. So I read one comic a day as part of my routine. I'm a very regimented and routine oriented person, so I put it in my routine so it happens. And what I've currently been reading is I've been catching up on The Last Ronin, because I'm a huge fan of dark storylines, obviously, for well established properties. I mean, I built the entire world on it, but mostly I love the turtles and I love the idea of the last turtle. So I started reading The Last Ronin. I'm about halfway through it. I think I'm just finished issue 3. And one thing that really struck me about it was the emotional roller coaster that you go on, because you're constantly going back and forth between different elements. And you said you haven't read it yet, so I won't give any spoilers.
Right.
But basically,
and for anyone who's been hiding under a rock the last year, this is TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
The Last Ronin. Yes.
Yeah. Basically, TMNT, The Last Ronin, tells the story of the last living Ninja Turtle, and you don't know who it is. And the whole marketing campaign, for one, brilliant fucking marketing campaign. Who was the last Ronin? Like, everyone wanted to read it because they didn't know of the 4 who is the last one standing. So I love their marketing campaign, but that's an aside. So back to the story. It's a heart-wrenching story, and every single issue it is catching you up with the current while reminding you of the past and telling you what happened in the past. And every once in a while, you get this strong hit. So I'm not a wine guy at all. I've tried wine. I can't do it. I'm on program right now, so I can't drink, but I do have plenty of experience with whiskey. I am more of a whiskey connoisseur than I am a wine guy. We off screen had a conversation about how I was extremely sad because I had to drive through Kentucky and stay in Kentucky twice and didn't get to go to a single distillery. I was so sad. But I thinking about The Last Ronin, I was thinking about the fact that it's old mixed with the new. It has a very hard punch to it, but it mellows out and gives you a warm sense of kind of remembrance. And it reminded me of Blackened American whiskey. And if you're not familiar with it, it is a whiskey that was made in conjunction with a master distiller by the band Metallica. And I am got to go back to metal, got to keep it on brand. But what makes this whiskey relatively unique is it's a blended whiskey. So it's not a bourbon or anything like that. They take a bunch of different whiskeys, blend it all together. They finish it in blended sherry casks, and then they blast the casks with the bass notes from Metallica's music. And all while it's finishing in these casks, they blast it with these heavy bass notes. And the theory behind it is that the reverberation from the bass notes opens up the wood so that the whiskey can mix with the aromas from the sherry cask a lot more.
Right.
I don't know enough about whiskey and the nuances of how it's made to say whether or not that's bullshit. It sounds awesome, so I'm just going to roll with it.
Sounds totally awesome, yes.
and it tastes really good. And one thing that I like about it is it's a high proof whiskey, which means you get a bite, and you get a bite very quickly. When you're talking about The Last Turtle, you get a bite very quickly. But as you're going through the story, and as you're going through the whiskey, it turns into the smoothest whiskey I have ever had. And it's very smooth in the fact that you're getting a blend of the whiskey, a blend of the corn, or the blend of the corn and the different elements from the whiskey, but also the fruity blend from the sherry casks. And by getting this blend, it smooths out and it mellows out into a nice just drift off. And with the last Ronin, every single issue, it has your hard hit,
Right.
but it lulls you into the sense of security before hitting you right in the emotions and then just taking you through this roller coaster over and over again. And it's like every sip of Blackened is a new issue of the last Ronin.
And would you say, without giving away the ending, but just in very broad strokes for the last Ronin, does it, because it strikes me being, this was sort of, Eastman and Laird coming back and giving their farewell to what they had created, their version of a farewell to what they had created. Does it smoothen out as well? Like at the very end of the series, do you get that nice, like, yes, we can let go? Now, like, this is
not there yet. No. I will let you know.
No.
I will let you know.
You haven't finished it. I forgot.
Yep.
Sorry.
I have two issues left, and I will let you know. But so far, it feels like a love story to a project. What it reminds me of is when I sat down to write the last issue of DUSK County.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. Not to say that this is the last I will ever write for DUSK County, but the conclusion of the story. That's what it feels like so far in the first 3 issues.
I mean, you left an opportunity to come back at the end of number 3 for sure. So it looked like there was a plan to come back, even though I'm sure, we'll see what the future brings.
We'll see. I do have a question for you without giving spoilers away. I've been alluding to this one scene, and it's a big reveal that pertains to the main characters. If I'm clear enough as to what scene it is without giving anything away, the big reveal that I'm leading up to, did it land as much as I was hoping it would? And it's one of the characters that they're looking for, and the big reveal about that particular character, did it land?
Yes. I believe so. Yes. It was, there was definitely, I believe that the way you told the story, and this is, again, coming from someone who got to read it for the very first time. So I think it's hard as a writer because you've been living with these ideas and characters for so long. The individual moment or the individual issue, you're sort of like, does this track? Does this flow? How does this all tie together? Because it's all just been in my head and on pages for years. So God only knows.
Precisely why I'm asking.
Yes. The way it flows, like, there was definitively the sense / understanding that something wasn't right. Like something had to be revealed about what you're talking about, because it's just like, that's too just, here we are. It's like, no, that's weird. That's weird. That's not how this is going to end. That's not how this is going to play out. And it didn't. Or at least, again, something had to be revealed. There was a twist there. So yes, absolutely. I feel like that was reading through it. Like, that was not, I wouldn't say like I knew where it was going, but it was not a surprise in the sense of like, oh my, where did that come from? It was like, oh no, we were going somewhere like that. That was for sure. So yeah.
Awesome. That makes me extremely happy. You're the first person outside of my team that I've been able to actually talk to about what they thought of it. Gotcha. Because at the time of recording, the book has been lettered for about 3 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like I finished lettering it. I sent it off to the editors. I made the editorial changes. I sent it to Blake and said, send it to everyone. So
go.
Exactly. Yeah. We're preparing for a campaign right now. So it's get shows like this, talk to new people, get people to read it, and pretty much do everything I didn't do for the last campaign. So
there you go. Amazing. I'm glad you did. I'm glad I've read it. I will definitely be there on day 1 of the campaign when it hits. Everyone should too. I I back a lot of campaigns, but I will also say that I've started to get much more, like, as time goes on, I just get more and more selective, just because, one, you back a lot of things to support people, but then unless it's something where the person really needs me to back them, or it's someone very close to me, like, I'm also starting to get my my bar keeps raising, because, like, I'm
Yep.
reading these amazing comics, and then I'm like, all right, I don't need that one. Like, it's not up to snuff for whatever reason. And so I'm getting more and more snooty about how many things I'm backing and how many I'm not. But even though I've read the whole series, I'm still going to come and back this campaign on day one, because it's a worthy thing to back. When I enjoy something this much, I'm not going to not back it. And I feel like these aren't my copies. I can't, like, I feel like mentally and emotionally, these, even though if I wind up backing for, like, the digital catch-up or whatever, what's the difference? But it's like, no, there's a difference. It's like, one is earned, one I got because I wanted them. The other one was part of, this, where it's like,
Yeah.
this is a wonderful thing. I love reading these things, but this is something where it's like, I'm willing to back it regardless that I've already read the whole thing, because it's that good. So, I will say, everyone,
Thank you.
definitely check this out. It is dropping on the September 15th. Is that correct?
The 7th, September 7th.
The 7th. Oh, much earlier.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
On the 7th, one thing we should talk about, we'll just go ahead and edit this part out of the video, but when would you like this episode to drop?
Sometime after September 7th, whatever works best within your schedule.
Perfect. Okay. But as long as just wait after the first 24 hours of the campaign, and then
I mean, to be honest, if you have the 7th open, then you can launch it on the 7th.
do it on the 7th. Okay.
Because quite frankly, as many eyes as we can get on the campaign on day one, the better.
Right up front. Okay. I've heard both. I've had some people be like, we don't need the help on day one. So it's sort of like, day one kind of takes care of itself. Let's drop it in the slow days where we need some momentum going on. So I've heard, depending on the creator, they've come to me with different asks on that.
Yeah.
So I always ask, if you change your mind, I will aim for the 7th. And then if you change your mind, just let me know, because pushing it forward, it is just waiting to pull the trigger. But I'll have it ready for the 7th, and we'll take it from there.
Sounds good.
Awesome, Joel. Well, thank you so much for this twice as long, just about, episode as we did, and thanks for putting up with that. But have a wonderful rest of your weekend. This has been fantastic. I love everything I've learned about you and Metal Ninja Studios and DUSK County Chronicles. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing to know you, continuing to talk to you, and everything you do. So fingers crossed on the big launch day, and we'll talk soon, I am sure.
Thanks for having me.
All right, my man. Ciao for now. Let's get out of here. Oh, end recording.